creatures and cryptids. It is your favorite pink plague nurse, Nymphy. Is my closet open? There we go. So today will be more of like a filler episode, if that makes sense, because what I want to do for my next video after this one is a kind of analysis or review on Netflix's Midnight Mass series, but I haven't finished watching that yet because I watch it with my family and we only get through like one episode per night, so I'm hoping to finish the series by the time I need to write another video. We'll see. So today we'll be kind of talking about the things that influenced me into liking horror and wanting to start a channel that eventually went in the direction of horror, and there's a few, so get ready. It's very goofy. So my first experiences with horror was, of course, Halloween, as it is with most people, and it wasn't great. So I had this one experience where my mom took me into Party City when I was like 4, and there was like a mechanical talking skull, right? A classic Halloween decoration, right? I did not like that. I hated that. That scared the hell out of me. I started crying. My mom had to run me back to the car, like had to pick me up, carry me back to the car. It was not a great experience for me, or her probably. I was also very not fond of Halloween decorations outside. I remember somewhat distinctly when I was like maybe 5, maybe 4, I believe I dressed up as Belle that Halloween. I don't know why I remember that, but I do. And my parents had to actually drive me to certain houses because the Halloween decorations would scare me. And then one actual night, I think it was probably the Halloween after, I actually just trick-or-treated at home, like inside, because I was too scared of the the decorations outside. So I had, like, my parents would go into different rooms and stand behind doors, and I would knock on the doors and they would pretend to be people and hand them out to me. But as I got older, like into my preteen, not even preteen, like maybe like 3rd grade, as I got into like 2nd, 3rd grade, I began to start liking Halloween more. I mean, I obviously still didn't really like the decorations, but I could handle it. And as I could handle it, eventually I started liking it, you know? I was never really a fan of jump scares, and I'm still not really a fan of jump scares. I don't like jump scares because they get my heart racing in like not a fun, scary kind of way, just kind of like surprised. It's like a bad feeling. I don't like jump scare feelings. I prefer the suspense and the existential dread kind of avenue of horror. And I also feel like jump scares are just really cheap because it's like you're not actually scaring me, you're just surprising me, and those are two different things. Nevertheless, in around 3rd grade as well, I started to get into like the Goosebumps series. Isn't that where all horror fans start? Isn't it always Goosebumps? It was always Goosebumps. I'm gonna be completely honest, I don't remember the plot of most of the books I read, because I did read quite a few Goosebumps books, but they don't really stick in my mind. You know what does stick in my mind, however, is I think it was like a Netflix kids series of Goosebumps, and it would be like a little anthology, right? So it would have a different episode with different people each time. And the ones that I vividly remember is there was one episode where a girl got like, it was like an American Girl doll, but it was like life-size. So it was like a life-size American Girl doll thing that like you could customize to look like you and stuff. So this girl got one of those, and the doll started misbehaving and shit and started blaming it on her. And then the doll stole her body and she went into the doll's body or something like that. Like the doll somehow turned into a human and she turned into a doll. And the doll was acting like this perfect daughter and whatever, and like the parents didn't notice at all, and the only reason the girl got her body back was because I don't actually know if the girl got her body back. Oh shit, did she get her body back? I can't remember. But the brother realized that the human girl wasn't her because the real girl had like a birthmark on the back of her neck, and the doll didn't have that, so he checked and he saw that it wasn't her, and That's all I remember. And then the second one that I remember pretty vividly is like, it was like a boarding school for troubled kids episode. So this kid goes to that boarding school, and this is like renowned for like when the kids come home, they are perfect. They are model students. They're just everything you'd want in a child, I guess. But it turned out when they went to that boarding school, what they were doing was they would actually like trap the kids there forever and make clones of them and send the clones home. So that kind of fucked me up too. Those are the two that I remember most vividly, but there were a few others. I vaguely remember the book where you'd take a picture and it would, it was called Say Cheese and Die, I think. I think I have that book still, but it's buried somewhere in my closet and I can't really find it, so I'm not going to try. And the last thing I'm just going to say about Goosebumps is the movie. When was the movie come out? Did the movie come out in like, was it 2016? I think it came out in like 2016. Whenever it came out, I was like, I want to say I was like 10 or 11. And I was that 10 or 11-year-old white girl who just gets a ukulele and suddenly thinks that she's a beautiful musician, right? So I very much liked the Goosebumps movie featuring Jack Black. I watched it several times. And like I said, I was a ukulele girl. So I may or may not have actually written a song about the plot of the Jack Black Goosebumps movie. And I may or may not still remember like most of the song. I still have the ukulele rendition. It was literally the easiest chords too. The easiest chords, it was the E minor and A and C just throughout the whole song. Throughout the whole song. I always hate singing because like my parents are gonna comment on, oh, you taking the ukulele back up? And I'll be like, no, I was singing the song I made up in 2016 when I was obsessed with the Goosebumps movie starring Jack Black. Anyways, you feel goosebumps on your skin. You hear weird voices in the wind. What is it? You don't know where to begin. What do? You run until you feel safe. You run. Oh, that sounds horrible. To win. As if you don't want to survive the night. Bars, am I right? I'm not going to use the ukulele anymore because it makes too much noise, to be honest. It makes too much noise and I don't like it. It's going to draw the attention of my parents and it's extremely embarrassing. So the second verse went something like, you hear the werewolf howl, you know he's on the prowl, there are open books everywhere, you feel the wind in your hair, what do? And then the run thing again. I think the werewolf part was actually part of the third verse, so it was like, you hear a werewolf howl, you know he's on the prowl, something about hiding under a table and feeling drool, because that was part of the movie. I can't remember what the bars were, but... And then the last one, the last verse is where it just, my creative genius really shined through. It was, you run into your kitchen, there's no you think friends could be made, but when they throw a knife at you, you realize your life's at stake. What do? Okay, to be fair, that's pretty impressive for an 11-year-old, right? Right? Come on. Come on. Bars, okay? Bars. The next topic of this little spiel here is going to be how, I guess all of this actually just started in 3rd grade. In 3rd grade, I went to a book fair and I came home with 2 books. And usually I come home with those little fairy books, you know, that came with the necklaces, because I always like to have the little necklaces. But this time I came home with this bad boy. That's right, they let a 3rd grader check this out. It's the Scholastic book, right? Because it's always Scholastic. But I really liked the art. And that's why I bought it. I also have one on dragons that's like the same style, but it's just like completely dragons. But you know, that one, it's less thick and it's, you know, more focused on just like dragons instead of like spooky stuff. So, and I'm gonna tell you, have you ever actually been jump scared by a book? Have you? I mean, there's really no reason you should be jump scared by a book, right? Because you turn the page and it's awfully slow, right? I mean, any images on the page should, you know, be pretty obvious. Well, guess what? Imagine little 3rd grade me lying on the couch, right? Lying on the couch, flipping through her monster book, looking at all the pretty pictures. When this motherfucker pops up, look at him. Tell me that wouldn't scare you. I, like, visibly jumped, and I think I gasped, too. And I distinctly remember, like, my heart pounding for a little while after that. It was very traumatizing experience. Nevertheless, I still read the book. My mom was like, "Are you sure you can handle it?" And I'll be like, "I'm fine, I was just startled." And, I mean, it's actually a pretty cool book. I sometimes still like to go through it. It's got stuff on, like, aliens, and it's got stuff on, like, the older mythical monsters, like Fenrir, Cyclops, Chimeras, Cerberus. All the art is really good, too. I don't know who did the art in this, but, like, props to them. Ages 7 and up. I'm not sure if that's exactly really accurate, because, I mean, me seeing this at, like, 9 was a little much. Mer people, this one's really good, too, because this one, like, it didn't, usually mermaids are painted in, like, oh, they're so cute light, and this one's just like, they made sailors crash on rocks because they were evil and they drowned, which is, like, that's solid. I mean, of course, technically, sirens were bird people who did the same thing, but, you know, siren kind of synonymous with the Spanish word for mermaid, so it all just kind of morphed together, and, but anyways, I forgot how cool this book was, honestly. Look at how they drew the chupacabra, though. What is that? What is that? Okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, guys. The boogeyman. I promise this is the last one, but look how terrifying they made him. I hate that. I hate it. It's awesome. I hate it. I always really like to look at the mermaids, too. Because, like, the picture for the mermaids, she was just so pretty. Like, look at that. And, like, the fishtail is accurate, too. Because usually they have them like dolphins where they go up and down, but hers is actually going side to side, and I thought that was really neat. This is my other favorite. I really like the giant wolf because I was one of those girls who would roleplay as wolves during recess. I one time ate a leaf to commit to the bit. Well, technically I didn't eat the leaf. I chewed it up and spit it out. I wasn't prepared to go as far to actually eat a leaf, pretending to be a wolf. No, never mind that wolves are carnivores and, like, don't eat leaves. I was very committed, okay? I wanted this to be as real of an experience as possible. So if I was going to be a wolf, I was going to eat the leaf. You know what I'm saying? Another story from 3rd grade. This just all happens in 3rd grade. I know, right? I don't know what was going on in 3rd grade. I should probably mention that, like I've said, I'm homeschooled, but I was in a private Catholic school from kindergarten all the way up to 3rd grade. So 4th grade and on, I was homeschooled. And in 3rd grade, we'd have, like, reading time after recess or something. I can't remember exactly when the reading time was, but we had reading time, like, every day. And so she would read us the book, and the book that she chose was usually... She did read us some good stuff. Like, she did read us a couple of Roald Dahl books. I think she read us The Witches. But by far, her favorite series was Ghost Buddy. Do you guys know what Ghost Buddy is? Well, Ghost Buddy is a series of books about a ghost who is a buddy. It was actually, fun fact, written by Henry Winkler. It was written by Henry Winkler, and I really liked the books. I really resonated with whatever the hell was going on in the books. I can't actually remember too much what was going on. I remember a couple key details from what was going on in the books, but not a lot. But what I do remember is the cover art, and also the fact that I was absolutely down bad, down terrible for the ghost, okay? I forgot to mention the characters' names. So the main character was just a normal guy, right? His name? Well, just a normal guy name, you know? Billy Broccoli. You know, the name of just an average guy, just your average pal. The kid, the dead kid, the ghost kid, was named Hoover Porterhouse. He was named after a vacuum. even though he died in like the 1900s, so he did not know what vacuums were. So, of course, as someone who would have a crush on a fictional ghost character, I brought the book home with me. And as you might expect, I didn't realize it at the time, but my mom told me later on, like years later, the absolute disappointment she felt when she saw me coming home from my school with a book written by the Fawns. I think my Nana was there too, and I'm sure that just completely like wrecked her, because she loves literature like so much. She like reads all sorts of books, takes notes on them just because she can. She read like the whole trilogy of Dante's Inferno for fun. And this is when she's like in her like 70s, right? She's still doing this. So I'm sure it really hurt her poor little academic heart to see her granddaughter coming home from school where she's supposed to be getting a good education with a book written by the Fawns about teenage ghosts, no less. But yes, I was a Hoover simp for a while. I actually did a thing. 3rd grade me. This is my diary from 3rd grade. It's very interesting, full of very interesting things. Most of all, a love letter where I completely dox myself to the fictional ghost. Ah, shoot. It's written in pink highlighter, too. How am I supposed to read this? Now, like I said, I actually completely dox myself in this, so I will be changing my name as well as not saying my address, because no thanks. But everything else is completely genuine. I'll read this in as flowery and romantic as I can. Dear Hoover, I know ghosts are not real, and you will never read this, but I love you. I live at address. Love, Nymphy. So there are a few problems with this, right? One, I never like sent this out anywhere. This stayed in my diary like forever, so I can still read it. And I actually like it would stay in my shelf in a certain place where I put it, where I'd hope he'd maybe perhaps find it, because I didn't understand the concept of fictional crushes quite yet, because he was like my first fictional crush. So I was like, what if he's real, you know? But if he was, and he did manage to find that, I don't think he would need my full address, because he would already be at my house. I did not think of that. Nevertheless, that was really something, wasn't it? Gosh. I don't know what was going on with me. And you know what? In all fairness, look at his cover art, okay? So like 3rd grade me didn't have horrible taste. I don't know why I went for like malnourished Victorian kid, but you know. I don't know about a lot of things that I did when I was in 3rd grade, so. The last thing about this though that I would like to just grace the world with is when I was researching to just make sure I got everything right about the book series, because I didn't want to accidentally call like my wrong name, and I didn't want to call. I almost thought the ghost name was Hoover Steakhouse, so I had to make sure that it wasn't, and you know it wasn't. But at one point I did find this this Scholastic ad, and I would like to share it with you because it is the most amazing thing that you have ever seen. I'm gonna get a little closer.
Fitting in at a new school isn't easy for Billy Broccoli, but luckily, he's got a new friend by his side. You are in the presence of Hoover Porterhouse the Third, and might I say, very lucky.
So we shit. We start out with like top tier animation, right? You know, like this is on par with Dream's Mask video, right? Just absolute marvelous piece of engineering. And we see the main character and we see the ghost buddy, right? And he opens his mouth and he has a New York accent. Okay, in my defense, in 3rd grade, I did not see this commercial. I did not know this commercial exists. Everything about this Everything about whatever I felt towards Hoover was strictly the cover art and the books. Okay? Even I don't think third grade me would stand for this, but it's just wow.
The Hoove is funny, he's cool, and he's a ghost. The ghost with the most.
The ghost with the most. I'm gonna start saying that to people. Just the ghost with the most.
With the Hoove's rules for being cool, Billy just might get in style.
Slay. Billy ate. Look at that pose. He was like, oh wait, no, let me do the sunglasses. He was like, My favorite thing is that he's still dressed like a malnourished Victorian child, but he has the voice of a 40-year-old New York mobster. I'm like half expecting him to go, hey, I'm walking here.
The Hoove just may learn a few things from Billy, too. Hey, we could do this, Billy boy.
Hey, we can do this, Billy boy. The Hoove. The Hoove. The Hoove. I'm sorry, this is just too much for me. It's too much. So yeah, that was that. That was that. There's really not much to say about that commercial. Like, it's a lot. The next thing I want to go over is my most recent kind of exploit before I got into horror. And this was summer of 2020, so I was in summer of 8th grade, so I was leaving 8th grade. So I started listening to this Spotify podcast, right? And it was called the Cryptid Keeper podcast. And I think it's still up right now. They stopped making new episodes, but they still have all their old episodes up for people to listen to. And each episode they would go over a new cryptid, and I loved it. I loved it so much, I spent $20 for their Patreon per month. My dad did not understand why I would do that, and looking back, I don't either. But I have like a vast, expansive knowledge on random obscure cryptids now, just because I listened to that podcast, so there's that, and that really opened my gateway towards like, ooh, spooky, scary stuff. And I still really love cryptids. I think they're really cool. My favorites are the Fresno night crawlers, and I do really like the squonk. The one that cries just all the time because it's ugly, and then when people try to catch it, it just turns into a puddle of tears to escape the net. I think that's very good. I was gonna say relatable, but like, I cry for reasons other than being ugly. Particularly, I think I'm quite attractive, but if I could cry myself into a puddle of tears to escape danger, then I would. The very, very, very last thing that I'm going to talk about that inspired me in like the honorable mentions section would be, one, obviously creepypastas. I wasn't like super into Slenderman or anything, but I played a couple of like scratch knockoff games of Slenderman, and I knew of him. I did read the Jeff the Killer fanfiction story kind of recently, like it was like maybe a year ago or something like that, just because like I never really got into it. I just thought it was like, I was like, what's the hype about, you know, there are a bunch of people simping for this guy, who is he? And I read it and I was like, okay, that still doesn't explain anything. So I just kind of stayed confused on that one. Traveling back in time again to 3rd grade, where it all began, I did have this friend, and so there's like this back corner in the playground. It was like an entrance to the school, but there was like a stairway and then a little like cove almost, made of like brick and stuff. Like it was an overhang, but it was like big enough to be like a little platform, so a group of kids could just sit there, and all of us hung out back there. That's also the cave we would use when we were doing wolf role playing, obviously. And I remember one time, I don't know what the hell she was reading, because it certainly wasn't something that a 3rd grader should have been reading. It was like a book. It was definitely a horror book. And instead of just telling us the plot of the book like a normal person, she decided to tell us the entire plot of the book, but replace the main characters' names with the names of all the girls in our friend group. I don't know what was going on. I mean, listen, the very first part of it was saying like the house was haunted or whatever because the people who used to own the house were devil worshippers. I didn't even know what that was in 3rd grade, okay? I was very distraught that night, and I think I came home and at night I cried because of it. I cried because that was traumatizing. Hearing about one of your friends turning into a zombie, not fun for a 3rd grader. And then same friend when I was a bit older, maybe like a year or 2, and another girl who was like one of her best friends too, like did the Scary Mary thing and I was like terrified after that just because like I never liked any of that stuff, and I still don't like any of that stuff. Like I'm comfortable watching like fiction about that kind of stuff because it's fiction, not real, but any like incantations and stuff I don't jive with. No thank you. Not because of ghosts, but because of other things like demons. Don't like that. And that is one thing you will notice on my channel, that I never really cover horror that has to do with anything demonic because it makes me extremely uncomfortable. And not only because I'm Catholic, but also it's like one of my OCD triggers because I do have OCD and that's one of the big ones. So I just stay away from all that. But yeah, that night I went home and I cried again. And I remember having to use the bathroom, and I actually ducked so I wouldn't have to look into the bathroom mirror or see myself in the bathroom mirror, because like mirrors just didn't do it for me that night. I was fine in the morning, I think. It was just like a nightly breakdown that kind of happened every time someone told me something scary. Anyway, that's it. That's all the horror aspects that somehow led me to here on this channel, talking about random stuff. I'm still trying out the video style of just putting like bullet points and then riffing off of that so it'll seem more natural. I'm sorry if it doesn't seem more natural. To be fair, I am taking a college public speaking course right now. So hopefully it will help me get better with this, because kind of the speech formula, the way they tell you to make speeches, also helps a lot with video writing. So anyways, hopefully next week I will have for you the Midnight Mass analysis video. If not, I guess I'll figure something out. I don't know. Just remember to drink water, because I sure as hell won't. And I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Ghost with the most.
I bite at the hand that feeds me, slap at the face that eats me, some kind of animal cannibal.